Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm a PhD student at the University of Tübingen, and my husband and I live in the tiniest little apartment and we don't have that much space. And one of the things that we started doing recently is meal prepping. So I thought that I would make a little video showing you the kind of things that we meal prep and how we meal prep lunches and dinners for a whole week on Sunday. We basically have, I think, 6 or 7 meals on rotation, and we just make 3 for each week so that you're not having the same meal after each other, just for a bit of variance. I'm definitely not as blessed with the boring I don't know what else to call it, boring gene like my husband, where he loves food but he could very easily just eat the same thing every day all day. I am not like that. I like a bit of variance. I like to taste different things, and so I kind of came up with the 3 meals trick, and it has made such a big difference to the variety and everything that we've been able to do. Basically, we plan out our meals on Notion, and then you can see we've listed out what all of the different ingredients are, and then as I go through and make each meal, I just tick it off so that I make sure I remember what I'm doing. So the 3 meals we're going to be making today are roast chicken and roast veggies, which is pretty easy. It's like an oven dish. And then we're going to make enchiladas, which starts on the stove and then moves to the oven. And then we've got a pesto pasta, which most of the veggies are uncooked. And we try and make 3 different meals so that we're not trying to use our 2-burner stove at the same time, because we just can't. Like, we can do pasta and meat, for example, but we can't have more than 2 at a time. So we try and utilize the oven and the 2-burner stove. And then I am hoping in like October, when I get my next big paycheck through, I'm hoping to buy a, like, I think it's a 2-in-1 slow cooker and pressure cooker. So then that's going to make it easier even still. We're going to have the oven, the stove, and then the slow cooker to hopefully do all of our meals. So I'll take you along and show you how we do it. And I hope that this gives you some ideas for what kind of super easy meal prep things you can do for lunches and dinners. If you have seen my apartment tour, you can probably remember that we have the tiniest kitchen. This is the size of our full prep thing, and so since that video we've actually put this table here so that we can do some sort of prep, and we've even been putting like the draining rack on here so that we can still use this tiny little section here, which is so annoying, but you know, we've learned to make do with it. So I've tried to make this as streamlined as possible, but generally what I like to do is start with all of the oven dishes because they're going to take the longest. So I start by prepping my chickpeas. I'm showing you all of the seasonings that I'm using, but obviously you can do that to whatever you want. I just like these as a basic seasoning for the chickpeas. And then I like to do it in a bowl so that I can add the oil and the seasoning and properly stir it around, because I find that if I do that when it goes onto the oven tray, not all of the chickpeas get properly coated. And then I just put that in the oven and get started on cutting the potatoes. I'm using about 2 kilos of potatoes for 2 of us for a whole week. I do like to cut them pretty small so that they don't take ages to cook. Obviously, cutting them smaller means a bit more prep time, but that's just what I like to do. For potatoes, I just like to add a generous helping of salt and pepper and then oil, and then I stir that through as well, also in the bowl, so that you get a good covering on all of your potatoes. And then I put it on an oven tray. I like to spread it out so that it's pretty thin and everything gets roasted. And then I start the pasta. So the pasta, I start by generously salting the water, and then when that's at a rolling boil, I'll add the pasta, and then I just get started on the veggies. I'm doing veggies for roast veggies, but also cutting up onion for the enchiladas later and all the other things. I basically like to cut all the veggies at the same time before I have to cut any of the meats. And so here I'm using pumpkin because I decided to use pumpkin at the moment because it's in season in Germany, and I do like a good pumpkin in with my roast. And we're just doing zucchini and capsicum. I think you can do whatever you want, really. It's just whatever I felt like doing. And I don't like to do it too small or too big because they all cook at different times. And just look at how crispy those potatoes are. So good. So then I'm starting on the chicken and the onion for the pesto pasta. I do like to fry up the onion first, and that can fry while I'm cutting up the chicken. And I cut up the chicken pretty small because I'm not somebody that loves lots of big chunks of chicken in with my pesto pasta. So it takes me a little bit more time as well to make it a bit smaller, but it's just what I like to do personally. And then because I'm adding pesto sauce, I'm just seasoning it with a little bit of salt, pepper, and paprika. And then it's time to construct it. So the first thing is corn, and then I add in some capsicum afterwards. And then you've got to test if the pasta's ready, of course. I do like to eat pasta, so I never skip that. Pour the pasta in, pour in those roasted chickpeas. This is the pesto sauce that I use because it's got no cheese, which means that I can actually have it. And I like to stir that through before adding the chicken because it means that the veggies actually get a decent coverage of pesto. And then I just add in the chicken, and this is what it looks like. I think it's scrumptious, so yeah, I definitely try it out. And now I'm cutting an onion for the mince. It's just gonna go into this pot with the mince itself, and I just let that go until it's browned. And while I do that, I cut up the carrot so that that can go straight in with the passata. And there's the capsicum that I cut up earlier, and this is what it looks like. And I let it simmer for a long time just to make sure that the seasoning and the passata and all the veggies cook properly. And then the next thing that I'm doing is making the enchiladas. Obviously, this is not an enchilada. This is more like a tortilla wrap pie because that's just how we prefer to do it. We didn't have enough enchiladas to do it each individually, so you do you, but this is what we like to do. And then I just like to top it with passata, and in our case we use goat cheese because I'm dairy free, and it worked perfectly. The next thing that I do is I baste the chicken. This is a base that I'm making myself, so feel free to use the recipe. And then when you start, I generally cover the chicken quite thoroughly in the base, and then every 20 minutes after the chicken's gone in the oven, you want to re-baste it. And I just check if the chicken's done based on how long it's been in the oven, but also the internal temperature. And then you just dish it up to however you want. I am so sorry that I didn't actually show what all of the pre-portioned meals looked like when we'd put them out into the tubs because it got late at night and I just wanted to get it away. I think it was about 10 p.m. by the time that I finished this, but it only took me 3 hours in total. So that's a record at the moment, doing a whole week's worth in 3 hours. It's not bad. So if you liked these recipes, I would definitely recommend trying them out. Obviously, change the ingredients to whatever size you want and whatever you feel like works for you. I dish myself up about 250 to 300 grams depending on what the meal is, and Luke generally has about 500 to 600 grams depending on what the meal is, and that's total as well. That's total weight of the whole meal. So you do what works for you. That's just what works for us at the moment, and these were absolutely delicious. You can see the enchiladas in the back as well as the pesto pasta and those roast veggies you saw. It's absolutely delicious. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you with another video very soon. Bye.